for you this lesson from Unity of the Keys Spiritual Center. So let's take a breath for a moment. Let's just rest into this wonderful space as we gently arrive right here, right in this sacred moment, a place of love. A place of love. And within us, a place of curiosity. I don't think any of us would be here if we were not innately curious. No, we are. Okay, so I need to warn you, this is November, and right around the corner is Thanksgiving. Yes. Although we have a glorious gathering here, some of us will also potentially be gathering with friends and family. And that can sometimes be a difficult time, right? It can bring stuff up. But we're preparing now for that time because we decide what comes up for us and what doesn't. We can move into this time with absolute harmony in our hearts and clarity, perfect clarity of who we are and the love that we bring to every situation. Now we're talking about forgiveness today, and you've all heard the sayings, forgiveness, holding on to forgiveness is like pouring that cup of poison and drinking it yourself. We get that intellectually. We've heard, do you want to be right or do you want to have peace? And those are wonderful things to think about and to ponder about and to examine in our own lives. If there's things that we could be doing differently, ways that we can be thinking differently, because it all starts with thought. But today we open our hearts to the healing energy of forgiveness and seeing that it is absolutely a pathway to freedom. And we do this not as an outward direction, but an inner invitation, because we can see, we can feel, we can imagine the peace that comes with forgiveness. Because forgiveness is a spiritual practice. It truly is. It guides us in returning to the peace within us that has always been there, always. And in Unity, we teach that the presence of God is everywhere. Everywhere present. And forgiveness helps us align with that. Remember that everywhere we are, God is. Every situation, God is. Every difficult conversation, God is present everywhere. And as we forgive, we align with that God consciousness, that Christ consciousness. That's who we truly are. So let's open up to that freedom of forgiveness today. Now, we are human, and being human means that we sometimes forget who we are. That's why we come together, isn't it? We forget who we are. We remember, and we go out in the world, and we have interactions. Yucky stuff might come up. We forget. Then we remember. Then we forget. And then someone helps us remember, and then we forget. Again, it's just part of our human nature. But we remember that we are both human and divine. For if we could remember always that we are the essence of divine love, where would unforgiveness come in? We would never be offended. We would never feel hurt. We would never feel betrayed or guilt or shame about something we misspoke or didn't do or did. If we always remembered that we are divine love in action, then forgiveness would not even have a role in our lives. But we're also human. And we collect feelings like stones. Now, not like our eternity rocks or our infinity stones that remind us of the God within, but like a jagged heaviness. Okay, we carry these stones. We pick up this rock. This rock is resentment towards that person that did not see our worth. And we pick up this rock, and it's resentment towards that person that said something that was unkind. And then there's this resentment and that resentment. And there's this rock we pick up that is guilt that we feel about something that we've done or not done. And then there's the guilt and regret, that big rock of regret, until we have, over time, piled onto us this heaviness that we think is who we are, that we think belongs to us. And it does not. It is not who we are. But we've carried it and added those rocks so gradually that we didn't even notice what was happening. And we can choose to say, I no longer choose to carry this weight. This is not mine. It was never mine. You know, no one put it on you. No one put it on me. I picked up that rock, and then that one, and that one, and that one. And we can also choose again. We can choose to release and let go of the heaviness that we are carrying, and we can do that through forgiveness. Now, we know that forgiveness is not approval. It's not pretending that our feelings weren't hurt or that the action didn't hurt us. It doesn't mean condoning what happened. It means transcending it and no longer allowing whatever that was to impact our energy, our vibration, our story, or who we are. In Unity, we say that forgiveness is a shift in consciousness. And it is. It's choosing to see through the eyes of love instead of through the eyes of ego. And the human ego will always try to take priority. When we hold on to anger and judgment, we are blocking the flow of divine love and divine life through us. And it's not just our thoughts or our words. It hits us on a cellular level. We are vibration. We are energy. So if we're holding on to unforgiveness, not only does it block the flow of good into our lives, but our very body is blocked at some level. And forgiveness releases that. It brings that flow of the divine life, which is always trying to gift us with it, opens up that space, frees our body. We feel lighter. We feel healthier. We feel more energetic. Forgiveness is spiritual freedom. It's remembering that we are not victims of the past, that we can choose not to be victims of the past. We align our hearts with that indwelling Christ, and we say, I choose love instead of fear. I choose love instead of fear. That choice doesn't change the past, but it does transform how we hold it. And it transforms the power that story was holding, the power we gave away to that story. So imagine a bird. Here's a bird. You're probably wondering what that bird was doing up here. I got this out of the children's Sunday school room. It's got a little peace sign around the neck. Isn't that cute? Yeah. So imagine that we're a bird. It's not that hard to imagine. Beautiful creature, ready for flight. Ready for flight. And then comes the strings of resentment, guilt, grudges that we're holding, unforgiveness towards ourselves, regret, resentment, anger. That bird's not going anywhere. And neither are we when we allow that to continue. Forgiveness is the act of cutting those threads one by one. Cutting those threads and affirming, I release, I let go. I will soar. I am soaring. And it doesn't happen in an instant. It takes time. It takes time to acknowledge what's holding us back. It takes time to recognize the unforgiveness. You know, Edwene Gaines, who's the Unity's prosperity queen, she has so many wonderful tips for us. You know, she tells this story about how every so often, and she does it whenever Spirit moves her to do it. It might be every 6 months, it might be every 3 months. She sits down and she thinks of everyone she can think of and lets them pass through her mind and her heart and see if there are any flags. Ooh, I'm holding something. Ooh, I thought I forgave that. No, I didn't. And she goes through 20 minutes of blessing that person to let that go, to heal that. She also tells the story. I hope you look her up online if you haven't gotten to hear her in person. She has such marvelous stories, and she's a good storyteller. About, as a young woman, meeting the love of her life, knowing she was going to marry him. She did. They finished their assignment in Australia. She was pregnant with their first child, and they went on a world tour, and he decided he didn't want to be married anymore and left her, abandoned her in a foreign city, pregnant. After a while, she learned she needed to forgive him because things were not going well in her life. And she realized she was holding on to a lot of anger about that, which I think most of us can understand. So she started out by saying, I forgive you. She was saying it to herself about him, I forgive you. Only initially it kind of came out like, I forgive you. Through gritted teeth. It was the best she could do at the time. And yet that's all she needed, was to have the intention, the desire to forgive, and then she could get there. And eventually she did. And it's important for us to recognize that sometimes we're just not ready yet. You know, it's too raw. It's too new. I will get there, but I'm not there yet. Forgive yourself for not being there yet. You're not going to get stuck. You're just passing through. You're not building a condo. You know, you're just passing through. But it is not good for any of us to gloss over anger and pretend that it's not there. Instead, we can speak words of truth. We can affirm words of truth when we're ready, just like Edwin Gaines did. And we have a slide that we're going to share with you so we can repeat this together. Together. The light of God within me dissolves all resentment. I am free. I am peaceful. I am love. Thank you, Coy. For forgiveness is a sacred alchemy. It turns wounds, the wounds that we have been carrying, the wounds, the hurts, all of that into wisdom as we move beyond it. It turns pain into compassion. And it turns those stories we carry, along with those rocks, turns them into strengths once we forgive everyone involved. We must remember to turn inward, to forgive ourselves. Because we hold on to guilt of choices that we've made when we just didn't know any better. We replay mistakes just to prove how unworthy we are. We replay those mistakes over and over again. But here's the divine truth. The Christ in you has never made a mistake. The divine within you has never erred. That spiritual essence, the essence that you are, that pure radiant love, is untouched by human error. And when we forgive ourselves, we align again with that truth, with the divine. We stop confusing past temporary behavior with eternal being. Everyone is doing the best they can with what they know at the time. And self-forgiveness is an integral part of overall forgiveness. It is not self-indulgence at all. It is not. It's saying, I choose to live from truth, not from regret. For the more clear we are, the more clarity we have with our love and our peace and our divine nature, the more we bless our world. Self-forgiveness requires is required in that. You must forgive yourself. You must forgive actions. You must forgive words, whether it was 5 years ago, 20 years ago, or this morning. Forgive it. Free yourself of that. And if there's amends to be made, make amends. But forgive yourself and lighten yourself. For each time we forgive ourselves, we allow that Christ light to shine more freely through us. And shines all around us, on our family, our friends, our community, and our world. So we have a second affirmation. Coy, if you'd put that up for me, please. As we affirm together, I release all self-condemnation. I forgive myself completely. I am free in the love of God. Let that settle for a moment. Let that settle within you for a moment. So what happens when we truly forgive? Something shifts in our field of consciousness, and we are different. We breathe differently, we walk differently, we see differently, we certainly think and speak and act differently. When we forgive, we restore harmony with others, within ourselves. We return to that natural flow of divine order. You know, Edwene Gaines, Prosperity Queen, she will help people ask her all the time. So I've read your book, and I've done all the lessons and the practices, and I'm still not living an abundant life. What's wrong? What's happening? She will always say to them, who have you not forgiven? Think about it. Who have you not forgiven? And she'll invite them to do forgiveness practices. Because forgiveness dissolves the illusion of me and you, of them, of then and now. Dissolves that illusion and brings us back to the awareness of the one presence, the one power, the one love, the one life. And from that awareness flows joy. Absolute joy. And freedom. Absolute freedom. And we become channels of peace in the world. So how do we practice forgiveness? Well, if you got one of the little spotlights, if you didn't get it on the way in, you can get it on the way out. There's 5 steps that are suggested. The first is to acknowledge the wound. Acknowledge it. My feelings were hurt. You don't have to admit it to anyone else. Acknowledge it to yourself. I was offended. My feelings were hurt. Don't gloss over it. The second is to feel the pain. Go ahead and allow yourself to go, that felt yucky. I didn't like it. Maybe even whisper, say to yourself, I see you, it hurt, I know it hurt. But don't minimize it or skip it. It was real. It was real to you. Now, the third one's not so easy. Try to see the humanity in whoever caused you pain. And then move beyond that and see their divinity. Recognize that they also have a pure heart within them. That they also have the divine light of God, the love of God within them. Now your ego will fight you on this. Because your ego wants to protect you from harm. And so the ego wants to build a wall and barricade you inside. But you're in charge. You can also say to your ego, I see you. I know what you're doing. It's okay. I've got this. The fourth step is you choose to release. You're going to choose to forgive. You set that intention. I'm ready. I'm ready to let it go. Stop obsessing over it or chewing on it like a bone or calling your friends to talk about it and let them join you with how awful it was. You are ready to release it. You choose love instead. You choose to forgive. And then the fifth step is to repeat it. Practice it until it becomes second nature. Practice it as often as you need to. And I can only speak for myself, that's pretty much daily. Maybe someone honked a horn or shut the door before I could get through it. And as you practice it, you realize you don't have to practice it so much. But it's a muscle. Forgiveness is a muscle, and it requires that willingness. We simply become willing to release, and as we do, it strengthens our spirit. We're not as easily offended. We just aren't. Have you ever been in a restaurant with some people, and maybe the person across from you said, that waitress wasn't very nice, and you're like, really? You didn't even notice, because you're not looking for it. And you realize that you're divine light, she's divine light, they're divine light, and we're all here doing the best we can do. And over time, this burden, in a sense, this unforgiveness, becomes lighter and lighter and lighter, because our heart is more open. So you find a quiet moment in prayer or meditation. Bring to mind the person or persons, the memory, whatever it is that you've been holding on to, and speak inwardly or aloud this third affirmation we have for you. Together. I behold the Christ in you. I release you to the light of God. I am free and you are free. And Coy, if you'd leave that up there for just a second. If you're sitting where there's someone beside you that you can turn to and say this, and you're comfortable doing so, say this to them together. I behold Christ in you. I release you to the light of God. I am free and you are free. Thank you. Now, as you practice this, you may not feel the shift immediately, but consciousness is changing. It is beneath the surface. Consciousness is changing, and you are planting seeds of peace. And if the memory returns of the offense, of the hurt, just repeat it. Repeat it. Repeat that affirmation, and each time the angst, the hurt, grows weaker until it dissolves completely. So what then is the freedom of forgiveness? It's the freedom to love without fear. The freedom to see others not for what they've done, but for who you know at the very core who they are as the divine, as that pure heart. It's the freedom to wake up unchained from the past. We've snipped those strings. We've set down those rocks. It's the freedom to walk lightly, to breathe deeply without carrying any armor with you, because you're not concerned, you're not afraid. Forgiveness sets you free from being a reaction to someone else's action. Isn't that beautiful? Sets you free from being a reaction to someone else's action. It returns your power. Because until you forgive, part of your energy belongs to that story. At its deepest level, forgiveness is love in motion. Each time you choose to heal rather than harm, each time you decide to listen rather than judge, each time you choose to understand rather than to condemn, you are choosing freedom over fear. And when you move forward, taking these steps, you are increasing your capacity to love. Because love and resentment cannot coexist in the same heart. One will always replace the other. And we get to choose. We get to choose. Myrtle Fillmore, co-founder of the Unity Movement, wrote, "Let God's love flow through you freely, and it will adjust all things rightly." All things, that's our lives. Adjust our lives rightly. We move forward, sure steps, infused with love. feeling lighter, feeling brighter. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And so as you walk this week, know that there is nothing to separate you from divine love. Remember, the Christ within you is whole, is radiant, is loving, and constant. And as you remember, may you be a light to others who are still learning to let go. Because forgiveness is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of freedom. And so it is. So it is.